Hi, Cedar. It's good to see you. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. So, I wanted to start by just doing a little bit of a recap of our session last time, because we completed your initial intake and your assessment last session. So, when we met last time, we talked about some of your history and some of the things that you are looking for in terms of services. You talked about that your primary focus right now is getting back with your children and being able to be with them again. You also talked about some of the things that are on your plate, like work, and some of the goals within that you've set in terms of like building up your finances, again, with the goal of being able to be reunified with your kiddos. And then we also talked about just barely touched on goals for services, and more specifically, kind of action item goals that we can work on in our sessions, to make sure that when we have this time together, we can continue to be working towards that place that you want to be. Um, so in terms of these sessions, kind of what um, I typically will start with is really just getting to know each other and building a relationship. Obviously, you don't know me super well yet, but I want to learn a little bit more about you, and some of the things that you're navigating. I kind of serve as a third person to be able to kind of be here and be a support for you, and also offer some encouragement as you go through different things. Um, and just a reminder too, I know we completed the paperwork the first session, but I am a mandated reporter, which just as a refresher means that if there are any concerns about harm to others or yourself, that is where I am required to report that to a higher level, so usually the authorities. Um, but outside of that, unless you complete a signed release of information, that information will not be shared. So at any point, if you want to revoke any of those releases of information or alter that, we can certainly talk about what that looks like, and move forward with that. Any questions after we kind of recap and then talk about the inform or the releases of information piece?
Uh, no, I just like that everything that I've been working on here. I would like it being sent to my worker,
Okay.
my
Okay.
case.
Okay, so we'll make sure before you leave today to get that information for your caseworker, and then we can talk through, specifically what information you want us to share and what that can look like. But thank you, absolutely, that's something we can do. So, um, starting today, I'm curious what your plate has looked like over the last week, what you've been up to, and how work is going right now.
Yes, so last time we had spoke, I told you that I was part-time. However, I am trying to move up to full-time, but with visits, it's just a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
Um, but I do need that money. So it's kind of, do I pick my kids or do I pick money? So it's a lot to handle right now, more or less.
Yeah, that sounds really overwhelming. You have two things that are very important, especially to you with your kiddos, that you kind of have to choose between those things. What have you thought about so far in terms of pros or cons, one way or another?
Right now I'm just telling myself that it's not forever, that um I'm trying to put in more hours because it is summer. So
Mhm.
once they get back into school, I am hoping that I could do more shifts, but then I am hoping that it won't go on as long, meaning I won't be having my kids kept away from me as long.
Yeah. Okay. So when you talk about not being away from your kids as long, it sounds like you have experienced this before. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you navigate that situation before? What did that look like?
Um, with the oldest, her father was still in the picture, so we were both able to work on our case plan. So I had that extra income. Uh, we were young too,
Yeah.
and we were able to successfully complete our case plan at that time.
Okay. Okay. So what is different for you now in this space? I think you mentioned during the intake that the oldest father is not in the picture. Is that correct now?
Yes,
Okay, so now it's really just you and the kiddos.
yes.
Okay, so that piece is a little bit different. Um, what are some of the other things that look a little bit different from last time?
Um, I don't have that support with any of their dads. Um, it's just me dealing with them, working part time. It's it's hard. I don't have a good support system.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned too during your intake that um, while you do have a sponsor, I know your family and your relationship with your family has been difficult in navigating this process. Um, did you have support from your family, or did that look different before when you were previously navigating this process?
Yes, they were more supportive before. Um, now that in this now that I've gotten myself back in this situation again, they're more or less turned their backs on me. They're really disappointed.
I'm sorry to hear that. That must feel really isolating, especially when those people were there before but
Yes.
are there now. And it sounds like you've been kind of strategizing already when it comes to work and money and finances um, to get to the other side of this. Have you had any attempts on your end to reach out to your family or vice versa?
When the children were first taken, yes, I had asked for them to be placed with them. However, they said no because, like I said, that this is my second time. Um, my siblings and my dad had said no.
Okay. And how did that make you feel when you heard that they said no?
Uh, angry. I was
Yeah,
mad.
yeah. And do you feel like that anger has continued between you and them since that happened?
Yes, it's made me more distant, but I am trying to use it to have me keep pushing forward.
Okay. That's a really powerful way to reframe that feeling. Because, I mean, we all have seen people or experienced what it looks like when we get angry, and that is more negative, or we're using that to get back at other people or get revenge. But being able to use that as motivation to help you achieve your goals is a really, really powerful way to reframe that. So good on you to already kind of be using that as motivation to get where you need to be.
It wasn't easy. I mean, there was times where I wanted to drink.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it it hasn't been easy. I mean, there are times where I wanted to not not call my sponsor, uh, but I've really, I guess, utilized her during this time, especially during that time too, where I wasn't able to place my kids with them because I feel like they should be with family and they're not.
Yeah. When this happened before, were they placed with family, or did that look different? They were with family. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At that time, it was only the oldest two.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's really difficult for that change in your relationship. Um, it's good to hear too. So you mentioned that um, sometimes that anger, instead of motivating you or like pushing you through, sometimes pushed you to drinking. And that's something that I know has caused or been a part of a lot of the reason why your children ended up being taken. Um, are there other things that you found that kind of trigger you to get really angry or even drink?
Um, yes, fights with like their dads, not being able to meet ends meet.
Mm.
Um, I don't have the best coping mechanisms. Um, before I guess seeking help, I would say everything used to make me fly off the handle, to be honest. I think I don't want to say I think, but having the kids taking not really a blessing in disguise, but it's making me see everything in a different light. Um, even though my family and I are close, we weren't raised the best. We weren't shown love. We weren't shown how to speak. We weren't shown how to cope with s- cope with certain things. Uh, of course, being Native American, you're not supposed to talk about certain aspects. You're supposed to just more or less get over it.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of factors that have kind of influenced or maybe have made it difficult to build a good skill set of coping skills to help you navigate situations, whether that's internally with your family or your community and some of the values and kind of untold expectations that come along in all of those areas. Um, I'm curious, what are some of the outside of drinking? Are there any coping skills that you found um, or things that you can do to take your mind off of things that refill your cup?
I found journaling to be helpful.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's awesome.
I like that. Before the kids were taking before the kids had gotten took away, I used to like to color, and that was able to, I guess, calm me.
Yeah.
Um, or if I was really upset, I would have to go for a walk.
Mhm.
Those are a few things that would, I guess, I couldn't think of off off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Those are all really great coping skills that you've been able to develop. Um, I wonder if there's an opportunity, as you kind of mentioned this space you have right now to be able to look at things a little bit differently. I wonder if there might be an opportunity to maybe go back to some of those coping skills or be very intentional about those things that fill your cup, like coloring, like going for a walk. Um, is there maybe a space there to be able to kind of fill you back up, but also support you in a way that's positive, and kind of helps lead you to your goals? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that.
Okay. So in terms of like maybe trying to set a goal or even kind of homework for you to take um, and work on and then bring back when we see each other next, um, how often would you say, um, you know, let's see, when you're faced with a situation out of, you know, 5 times that there's a situation, how many times do you feel like you're able to utilize any of those coping skills?
Mm, honestly, since the kids have been gone, not a lot. I've noticed I'm more agitated more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I need to control it because that's what I'm trying to work towards is reunification with my kids.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have a car, so I walk a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful.
So it kind of forces you to have to utilize that
Yeah,
coping skill, even if you're like doing it in all flustered and having to almost run your way to wherever you need to go.
yeah.
Um, so how many times would you say you intentionally do that? So like I am choosing now to do this thing that is helpful to me. Like out of 5 times, would you say 2 times, 3 times?
Maybe, yeah, 2 times probably.
Okay. And why not a little bit lower than that? Why not a 1? What have you done to get you to that 2?
I don't know. I don't I think I react first,
Mhm.
then I think about it.
Okay. Okay. So, um, what if we set the goal of intentionally creating time to do one of those things that you find helpful, like once in the next week, intentionally creating time. And then I would challenge you to maybe think about what that feels like after you've done that. And then we can kind of bring that back if you even want to write that down, jot a couple thoughts down and bring that back. We can kind of process through what that looked like, and how we can continue to expand your skills, so you have that support, to be able to manage your anger. Do you feel like that's a reasonable goal for now until next week?
Yeah, I think that would really help me out, especially at work.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
really get short-tempered with the customers.
yeah, because sometimes they're kind of tough to to deal with. They're not
Yeah.
always the kindest. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you that homework as I want you to practice that piece, and kind of reflect on what that looked like. And we can talk a little bit more about that when we come back next week. Um, okay. All right. Well, we will plan on that. And then we'll talk through when you're scheduled for your next session next week. Um, Trying to think of, oh, and the other thing before we leave, we'll make sure to complete that release of information that you mentioned at the beginning, so we can make sure to send that information to your caseworker.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else before we take off today?
No, I'm just eager to keep coming back and working on my case plan.
Okay. All right. Well, I will see you next week, and we will check in at that point.
Okay, thank
All right.
you.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.